Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to give 2 minutes for everybody to settle down.
I wish there was so much crowd for my movies in cinema. I will believe that when it translates into box office.
Should we start?
Yeah.
Everybody's in? Okay. So first of all, thank you, wonderful audience. I know it's really tough to be standing in queues, but I hope you all are all in and you will enjoy this session. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And thanks, Anurag. Thank you for being here. So we've called this a kind of master class, but it's a freewheeling conversation about his work, his craft, and how he's got here. We'll speak for a little while, and then we'll open it out to the audience to ask questions. So, from the grand privileged position of having been in a film school, let's ask you how did you learn filmmaking? I mean, we always think, filmmaking, going to a film school is so important, etc.
I was rejected by every film school.
Great. So tell us, how did you learn it then?
I don't know, I discovered cinema too late. I think I used to watch Hindi mainstream movies. And I grew up in Banaras, in Varanasi. And my family was a family of mathematicians. So everybody is very strong about mathematics, and my father is very proud about mathematics. So I always chose a subject they knew nothing about, so I chose biology. So all my life I've done things like that. So my father, because he did not know anything about biology and what I was, so I just kept pursuing that so I wouldn't get questioned at home. And my father was in a very transferable job. He set up most of the powerhouses across India. And so I was sent to a boarding school. And I was very young in my class. I was always younger than everyone else. So it kind of, at that young age, kids can be very cruel. If you're smaller and younger, and they would bully you. So to escape that, I would spend all my time in the library. So I grew up in a library. So it's like library is a safe place for me. So if you look at my house, it's also like a library. So anywhere I go, I build a library around me. So I feel safe there. And I end up just reading a lot. And coming from Banaras without any opportunities, I could not find anything that resonated with me except literature. And I was studying to be a microbiologist. And that's when I discovered cinema, when I was in university, at a film festival in 1993. And suddenly I saw something that resonated with me. I was like, this is what I want to do. And it did not take me much time to leave. I just packed my bags, told my parents, and they were very disappointed in me. And I upped and left. I was 19 years old. So I started very early, and I had no idea about film schools. So by the time I applied for all film schools, it's like I said like a joke, they rejected me. I was always very late. So in the sense, I applied for film schools and everything, it was when the admission dates were closed. I think somehow that worked for me. It worked for me because all my friends got through film schools. Whoever, like Imtiaz Ali was in XIC. My friend Sachin Kumar was in FTI. Somebody got somewhere else. So I got a place to stay with them. But I vehemently went on my own journey, reading and writing. And I think what came very handy for me was I had this immense capacity to write. I would write 20-page letters to my father. I would write non-stop. So I would essay competition. I would make up my own answers in history exams. But they were so long, I think teachers did not read through and they just gave me good marks. So I could fill sheets like nobody else. And I till date write like that. I just finished my script this morning in the hotel. So And because of that writing capacity, I was fortunate because I came to the city of Mumbai at a right time of transition in television. India had just discovered daily soap operas. And all the soap operas were being controlled by very English-speaking South Bombay people. And they really needed somebody who could write in Hindi. At the same time, they were very privileged elite who did not want to give credit. That worked for me. So I could hone my writing skills on their expense. So I wrote without credit, I got good money. And I had to churn out 3 episodes a day. And that was the beginning. And I kept discovering cinema. And then I think my real growth in education started when I started working in a place called Media Classics, where I met these 2 very geeky brothers, Sriram and Sridhar Raghavan. And Sriram was doing Raman Raghav, and Sridhar was always writing. He was also another person who used to churn out episodes for CID. He also had this immense writing capacity. And we bonded very well, Sridhar and me. And Sridhar put me on a journey. He gave me a book by James M. Cain to read. Anybody who wants to be a writer, I always tell them, I've made my own separate course of how to learn writing, which is like start reading James M. Cain first. and it somehow, he kept introducing me to these books. And I went on my own journey of reading and writing and watching films. And because I had not seen anything, they would sit there and talk about Godfather. I did not know what Godfather was. They would talk about Taxi Driver. I did not know what Taxi Driver was. All I had seen was D. Sica's movies, and I had seen Italian neorealism at the festival. And then I would talk about that. They knew more about more filmmakers. So I was on this curious journey of consumption. And just consuming movies day and night, which went on for a long time. That's how it all started.
But what about the actual art of writing a script, where you develop characters, you have, all this business of the 3 acts, all that?
I don't like that whole 3-act structure.
Yeah.
I think writing is a very personal thing. And this is the reason why I was asked to leave from FTI when I was teaching writing there. Because I would tell them, just throw the theory away. And because writing is not mathematics. And 3-act structure makes it into mathematics. It all becomes very, there's no soul in it. And I want to see the writer's soul in it. And my writing process became like, I just write. So what happens is I start writing and it takes me somewhere. And the characters write themselves. And there's this, I once went for a rehab because I was drinking a lot. And in the rehab, when they were trying to teach us about addiction, that's when I realized this is how I write. And which is about, when they were teaching us about addiction, and they said, you know what, our brain has this, we only use 8 to 9 to 10% of our conscious brain. But addiction comes from our 90% of the other subconscious brain. We don't realize it. That's where it kind of, the habit starts to form. And writing somehow for me was like that. Once you start writing, you're writing from your conscious brain, and most people, what they do is, they keep reading what they've written. And when you read what you've written, you will never be satisfied. You'll always think this is lesser than what it should have been. So the first thing I learned was, don't read what you write. Just keep writing. And what happens is, if you're writing in a flow, around 15 to 20% way in, your subconscious brain kicks in. And then it starts to flow. Your writing starts surprising you. Suddenly you're like, did I write that? Did I just come up with that line? Because you just surprise yourself, because your characters surprise themselves. And it all comes, and somehow I trust the gut instinct, and I started doing that. And by the time I was on my 3rd script, I started trusting that process. And once I started trusting that process, I tried to figure it out, and I started trying to talked to various writers that I knew or came across and who I admired, especially authors, fiction authors. And I realized a lot of people have the same common process. They just write. They do not sit down and create character sketches. They don't sit down and do plot points. They have one idea or one thread, and the whole writing process is like unraveling a sweater. You know, you start pulling the thread, it all kind of comes in, and then by the end of it, realize it's a one long single thread. And that's how writing is. Everybody has their own process. I think everybody needs to find their own process. This was my process. And I started practicing that in my class in FTI with the students. And I would do individual sessions with each one. And somehow worked. It worked because it was the most productive class in the history of FTI. And each one wrote the script. The most reluctant of them wrote a script. It somehow worked. My last student, I just saw his film yesterday. Pada, Kamal. Such an amazing film. I was trying to tell him that, please teach me how to make films like that.
So writing is that personal process where you're sort of working it out in your own way and your own. But what happens when you now have a crew, you have actors, you have cinematographer, you have locations. What is that process of communication? How do you deal with, I mean, you talk a lot about chaos and, you know.
In the beginning, it was difficult. Now it's much more simpler because it's like one person who's leaving finds me another person. So if like my first AD leaves, he gets me the another first AD. And he's already, that another first AD is prepared what he's getting into. And my world is built on trust. I am not a person of pre-production. So I'm not a person of a lot of prep because my filmmaking comes from a place where we had no money to make movies. And because we had no money to make movies, we never got what we wanted. So I learned that be prepared for everything. We had no money to build sets. We had no money to get properties. So properties we brought from our own homes. And somehow I realized, I was watching National Geographic. And I was like, you know what, who was stopping me to shoot in the entire city if I don't disturb anyone? And slowly, over a period of time, we evolved a process of shooting movies by following two rules. We don't put camera in a public place on ground, and we do not interfere with people's way of lives. And like a documentary filmmaker meets National Geographic, we started shooting with long lenses. And we started keeping the camera away. We would find a vantage point and shoot. In the beginning, we made mistakes, like we would go too high and all shots were like this. So we started going away from people and probably a floor above, first floor. So it almost looked like eye level. We would put cameras in vans and open the shutter and shoot. We would shoot in the middle of the street. Like whole Black Friday we shot like that. We had no money. So that kind of and the team started enjoying that process. So, and I have worked with very few collaborators over a period of time. And we kind of got into that process. We respected each other's process. And I think slowly when I started working with Rajiv, he also stopped going for recce after 3 films. So me and Rajiv Ravi would sit and say, go there and find a location and tell me what is available. And then it's the perspective that makes it look the way it does. It's not really the location. It's how you look at a place. So it's that point of view that we started working. And me and Rajiv used to work in silence. We just somehow got, and now I've got a mini Rajiv called Sylvester. So it kind of, it's a very organic process, and where the whole team knows that they all come because they're all wanting to be filmmakers, and everybody participates in everything. And after 2-3 films, everybody gets fired and they're forced to make a film, which is why we have an army of people who are making movies, which has come from the same kind of a collective group. We keep pushing each other to go and make a movie. I'm not making a feature film, produce short films for my people. I'll write dialogues for someone else. Somebody will do something else for someone else. Because we started building a community like that from one office where we had no money and all we had was, we would make like rice, dal, pickle and one sabji. And that's all that was available. And there was one camera and there was this editing setup, and I think whole lot of cinema came from there. And that's, for us, the peak period was like 2013 when we had 5 films at the Cannes Film Festival. And all made with no money.
What about actors? You worked with mostly unknown actors, I mean, who of course have become very known favorites.
I work with very good actors.
Yeah. How do you cast? Tell us your process of casting.
For me, it's all about, like, I cast based on a personality. And for me, the most important thing in an actor is here, the eyes. And the screen presence is all here. Because unlike theatre, when you're performing and you're attracting the audience, it's almost like this whole mating thing that you do. And you use your whole body language and you use voice and you use everything. In films, it's very different because your audience is sitting right here looking into your eyes. When we talk to each other, we look into each other's eyes. That's what the audience does when they're looking at it. And if the truth is not there in their eyes, then it doesn't matter how good their voice is or modulation is or what they do with their body language. So I just look for the truth in their eyes. And when I find it, I get them in. And I generally work with very good actors, so it doesn't matter, because we normally don't have those kind of budgets or backing. So I look for we have a team of, we started with Black Friday around, we started building a casting directors team, and we would go and find actors who are unemployed, doing theatre, doing street shows, and would pick them and bring them in. And we kept looking for newer actors. In the beginning, this process of making a film, new actors and shooting without permission was difficult. But now it's become a norm. Like last 10 years has been easy. Since Vasipur, it's been very easy. Because now everybody gives in to the process. Now, we don't need to find actors. They kind of find us. They know if they're good. Now we don't need to find a lot of crew members and people. Everybody now comes and wants to go through the process. And because we came from chaos, so I don't know how to function when everything is in control. I remember I was shooting Bombay Velvet, and first time studio film, everything was such a setup, I was so lost. So I went on the set and I created chaos. So I started giving different instruction to different people. And I personally instructed everyone to do different things. And there was no coordination, there was chaos. I went to Rajiv, let's shoot.
Just to continue with the casting story, tell us, how did you find Nawazuddin?
Nawazuddin, like I remember I was casting for Satya. I was Ramu's film, I was the writer, assistant, casting director, everything. I was casting for the film. And there's a very good actor called Rajpal Yadav who had come to Mumbai, and he was leaving Mumbai because he was very depressed and given up. So one actor called Ashraful Haq, he's passed away now. He was in Black Friday. He told me, can you just talk to this guy and give him some hope? So we met him at the railway station. Rajpal Yadav. Nawaz was carrying his suitcase. That's how I met him. So Rajpal, I said, listen, I'm casting for a movie called Shul. I have a role for you. Why are you leaving the city? So he did a role, one scene role of a coolie, which from where his career whole started. So Nawaz was there, he says, can I also get a role? So I said, there's no other role left. So I can put you somewhere in the, he says, I have no money to eat food. So I'll do anything. So in Shul, he played Rajpal played the coolie, and Nawaz was a waiter in a scene with Manoj and Raveena. If you see, there's a very thin Nawaz. But that's how it all started. And then when we were doing Black Friday, Sarfarosh had come out, and Nawaz had one or two scenes which he was very powerful in that scene. And I remembered that scene. And when we were doing Black Friday, after shooting the interrogation scene, and we had no uh, monitors to watch anything. And there's this assistant of mine who's also my researcher, Arpadna. She's a filmmaker now. She made a film. And she was with Nawaz in NSD. And we shot that whole sequence, and Nawaz did this thing where there's this hair stuck on his tongue, which I liked very much, and I did not say cut, and I kept watching him. As I stepped out, Aparna was gushing at him. She was talking to the other girl saying, "Look at his eyes, he's so beautiful." So when I heard these two girls talking, I came back and I started staring at him. So I said, and then because the room was so dimly lit, all the interrogation scenes were shot in this red light, dense red light. So I was watching him, and that's when I really saw into his eyes, and I realized, there's this so much in there, and he is so invisible outside. So I liked him. I said, let's do something more. But at that point, I had no idea, because my first film was banned, my second film was shelved, my third was shelved. I was the most untouchable pariah of the industry. Nobody wanted to make my movies. So I said, we should keep meeting. And he didn't, in the sense he was traveling. And I started writing Gulal, and Black Friday again got banned by the Supreme Court. And we did not know anything. And at the same time, Nawaz started to do a film with Nandita Das called Firak. And I wanted Nawaz for a film, and he was not available. So I got this actor called Deepak Dobriyal in Gulal. And then Deepak did Omkara. It's like a cycle. Deepak did Omkara, and Omkara got him the Filmfare Award, and Deepak became this very big actor. And suddenly Deepak was not available. So I went back to Nawaz. And that's at the same time that Deepak was supposed to do Talash, and he was not available. Something else happened. And then I was looking at Nawaz. I said, I want to do this film. The idea of Wasipur had started to germinate. At the same time, it was hard to sell Nawaz, or to anybody, the whole cast. So I started doing what I do generally, like, build actors up over a period of films. So I said, what? I want you to do a song for me in Devdi. So he came and did Emotional Atyachar. And then I put him in a song where he plays this band person. And still nobody wanted him. The studio didn't want him. The film was almost 3 days before I was supposed to shoot. It got shelved. Devdi? No, this is Gangsta. Devdi was shelved for 1 year. Nobody wanted to touch Devdi either. But Wasipur, UTV dropped the film 3 days before the shoot, while the whole crew was waiting. And overnight we had to find money, and the shoot got delayed by 5 days. Because I did not want to let go of my actors. And we stuck by that. And I think what we all saw in Nawaz kind of came through. Also, Rajiv Ravi had shot a short film called Bypass. And Rajiv and me, we kind of work very closely together. He had shot Bypass, which Amit Kumar had directed, and Asif Kapadia had produced. And Nawaz had played the lead. So Rajiv had the same faith in Nawaz. So my whole team was kind of sticking by him, and then it becomes much more easier to fight, because the entire team is with you and say, like, we believe in it. So after that fight was through, luckily for us, after a long time, first time from India, like after 7 or 8 years, India had a film at Cannes, which was Udaan. And because of Udaan, and I was the writer and the producer and everything, suddenly everybody wanted to come around us. And by then, whenever we went into the shoot, Udaan ended up winning every award at home. That's when all the studios came back and said, we'll fund Wasipur. And suddenly, because I think it's always the external factors, they don't see. And then it became kind of easier. And once Wasipur came out, then there's so many films with Nawaz. The same year, Kahani came out. Kahani was shot later, but it came earlier. Kahani came out, this came out, and this 2-3 films back to back, and it just, Nawaz arrived.
Just to talk a little about Wasipur, because it sort of, in a sense, was a turning point in your career. It's really a landmark film in Indian cinema. After the Sholais and where there were all these bad guys and there were the good guys, and Wasipur suddenly sort of broke new ground, not only in the way it was made, the sense of the small town, but also in this kind of trope of about that we've always sort of been used to in Bollywood films. If you could talk a little about that, and where did Wasipur come from? Where did it
was
come
like,
from? For you, where did it
it's
come
very, I'll talk about my state of mind then. Because, today it's become so much larger than all of us. It's become so huge and there's so many stories around it. And sometimes you become lost in that. So for me, it was that phase where Udan had not come out. I had just made Devdi, and Gulal I had finished over 8 years. And we finished that film, and I wrote a movie that nobody wanted to produce, The Girl in Yellow Boots. For me, I needed to make that film to exorcise myself. So I started doing lots of commercials to put money together. At the same time, Vikram Motwani had to make Udan, which he has been struggling for 7 years, which Venu was supposed to shoot. And by the time it happened, Venu was busy. So Vikram had, and Udan, I was writing while I was shooting Gulal. So Vikram was with me on the set. I was writing the film, his film, and I was going and shooting my film. And he has been waiting around. And Vikram at that time just did not trust anybody. And he was very aggressive and angsty. And I said, nobody will produce his film. He's just such a troubled person, nobody will make his film. I said, your film won't be made till I don't become a producer. I said, I won't become a producer because my films are not releasing. So just sit at home. And that was a joke. And that joke turned out to be true. Because when my films came out and finally I got a chance, and after producing Amir, I said, let's do it at the lowest cost possible. And we somehow scraped together money. That was when Udan was being shot. I met this boy. I was also, my ex-wife was doing a play which I was producing, because we had nothing else to do. And she was performing theatre, and I would stand outside as a producer, because I was standing outside as a producer, a lot of people would come with their script. And I met this boy called Zishan, who played Definite in the film. And he started pitching to me a kind of a rehashed version of City of God. And I was like, I've seen this movie. And he got very offended. He says, no, this is true. I said, but this is not true. I know this is true. This is a story from Brazil. And he said, no, I'll bring it to you. I'll bring proof for you. So what happened was, next day he came to me with lots of these newspaper cuttings. And he started showing it to me. I started reading it. What he had done was, he had taken City of God as a template and picked up real incidents to fit that template. When I started reading it, I said, where is the rest of it? I said, this is such a beautiful story in itself. It's beautiful in the sense because it was funny. Because these gangsters, I had never seen such idiotic gangsters. And I did not want to do an underworld film. So I said, but these people are idiots. And I was also, at the same time, so many things happened at the same time. I was free. I was amused by these people. I told him, go and do research. I want the entire story. So he said, what he came to me was essentially part of part 2. I said, I want the entire story, the whole origin, everything. I also said that because at around the same time, 2 years before that, I saw a movie called The Best of Youth. I saw it in New York. I was teaching there, and Best of Youth was a 6-hour movie that tells a story set in Italy. It uses all the political events over a period of time to tell a personal story, which I thought was very interesting. Because this was suddenly like, through that one movie, I understood what Italy was all about. Those are the people writers and people involved with that film ended up doing Gomorrah and all those other movies. But Best of Youth is this fascinating movie. And I was like, there's a chance there to tell these stories of these gangsters who fought over a strip of a road. We made the film look bigger, but Wasipur is just a colony. It's a strip of a road. and over 6 decades. And through that 6 decades, I can also tell the story of North India through the political changes. That was also the same time I discovered the new Tamil cinema. I saw Parthiveeran, I saw Nan Kadavul, and Subramaniapuram. And Subramaniapuram was, for me, it kind of resonated with Wasipur, because these are the people who are obsessed with cinema, and they act like the screen heroes. And Subramaniapuram had a bit element of that in the film. Everybody was like fascinated by Rajnikant and imitating him. So all these things happened simultaneously, and I felt like there is something there. And with that belief, what is something there, I took, Zishan came with a 150-page novella that he had written. And I went with that to Madrid because my ex-wife was shooting for Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara in Spain. I got a free ticket. So because I got a free ticket, I went all the way to Spain. I parked myself in Madrid in a hotel. And I sat down and I wrote till what came out was part 1. And that's how it all started. And then the problem came of, like, I wrote such an expansive movie and we had no money. And studios insisting on casting big stars, and I did not want big stars because it was a very rooted film. And my confidence also came from watching Subramaniapuram and Nan Kadavul and all these films where they were new actors. And what Nan Kadavul did to me was, I saw Banaras, where I've grown up, from Bala's eyes. When I saw Banaras from Bala's eyes, I realized Satya was Bombay from Ram Gopal Verma's eyes. And from an outsider's perspective, the city is it's seen very differently. So what it did to me was, because we did not have any money, and we changed studios last moment, so I went back to where I grew up. Because my father had a lot of goodwill. I used all his years of goodwill in one film. So all the mines and everything and all the powerhouses and the house I grew up in is now a ghost town. I shot there. Everything so I reinterpreted the story of Wasipur through my own childhood and what I saw and what I remembered, and used all my father's goodwill, and so we managed to make a massive film in that smaller budget. And all that came in was very organic, because at the same time we shot in places where films were not shot. So like when we were shooting in a village called Ahrora, and we were shooting that sequence where Sardar Khan is throwing bombs in every house. And we had very excited Shyam Kaushalji, who had just discovered this whole system of how to show bomb blasts. All the action directors get very excited when they find a new way to show something. So he was trying to say, sir, can we get 3-4 houses? And all the village volunteered. Mere ghar mein bhi ek bomb lagao. So everybody volunteered, and then suddenly it's like the whole village became our set and everybody was happy about it. So we had these massive shots of bomb blasts and this and I found out from my father, I need a coal mine shot where the whole mountain is going to be blasted. And he found out and says, 6 hours from here, there are these massive mines and they're going to blast the entire mountain tomorrow. So me and Rajiv Ravi and his assistant, we all went all the way there, and we sat there and waited for it to blast. and if you see the shot, we have used the entire duration of the shot and we missed the beginning. Because the moment it started, we put the camera on. We missed the beginning, we set up the shot. So in all the sand mining shots, they're actual documented proof that there was sand mining happening. We shot everything, and my second unit was Shlok Sharma and Vicky Kaushal. And Vicky and Shlok would always get arrested for going in there and taking shots that were illegal. And all the stealing coal shots and things that you see from a distance, from a tele camera, they're all real things happening. We would wait there and watch them and shoot them. So it's it all came together somehow. We had no clue what it will become. And
I would like to ask, there's a kind of masculinity in that phase of your filmmaking, which one is seeing is now kind of changing with time. Can you talk a little about that? And where did, really, Wasepur, all these films are really
all those films,
yeah.
all those films are very representative of the world I came from. Because the world I come from is extremely patriarchal. But once you step inside the house, there's a matriarch there. But it's inside the house. So it's like both are pretending to be like my grandmother would be like, oh, you do whatever outside the house. Inside the house, I'm the boss. So my grandfather would always sit in the porch. He would never step in because he had no say there. So he would stay out and he would smoke a hookah and pretend to be like the boss of the house and he was scary to us. But inside it was the grandmother who would take care of us. So that's what I did with the film in the sense. It was like inside the house, he's scared of Nagma. Outside the house, he's all macho. But when it comes to, he just did not know how to stand up to them. And I just kind of took that and translated into it. But slowly over a period of time, what happens is, the world has gone through so much change and it starts to change you as well. I have a daughter who's been growing up, who's the next generation, who questions everything, who sits with me and talks about everything. I had a partner who would question all things I would have done in the film. And I faced that a lot of time because in the beginning when I was making Devdi, everybody was all the men were like, what kind of a world is this? What kind of film it is? It's the women who stood up for the film. And it came from them. And you have to listen. Because, they're coming from a place. They're coming from a place. And if you really see, and if you want to see, you will see. So I think it's the people around you that change you over a period of time. It's like it doesn't matter how much you change. This time and again, there's something that will come out of your mouth or some action of yours, and somebody will point out that, see, there's still a little bit of patriarchy left in you. And they start pointing that out. And that's how slowly it chips away. Because it's a conditioning from the childhood. But you can't hold on to it because, you think this is your defense system.
So you are conscious of this.
I'm very conscious. I'm very, very conscious, and I'm very aware of it when somebody points it out. And I also see it around me, and I know now today if I see where it comes from. I see it in my family, and I see where it comes from. I see it very deeply entrenched in my family. And my world, and when I'm banned today, I can't go back to my home because, but it is there.
What about, just to sort of change tracks, music? You saw Kumati yesterday and you said, my God, that music.
Yeah, Kumati was one of the most incredible music I've heard.
So music is such an essential part of your films. Songs are such an essential, and of course, soundscape, of course. But just a little bit about your use of music, the importance of music. Also because it's a question because a lot of people in the West, where you are very highly accepted, a lot of festivals, etc., this whole notion of the Indian film with music is very puzzling.
No, but it has happened gradually because I could not make movies without music. When I started to make movies, I love music on the other. So when I started doing my first film, there's so much pressure about what music do we have. And I wrote a script that actually had no music initially. And it wasn't supposed to be a rock band in Panch. It was supposed to be people who were part of a Shadi Wala band. But you know what happened? I was desperate to make a film. So I was like, okay, fine, let's compose music. I did not know where I'll put the music in the film. So the songs were composed. And songs were composed based on that. I said, okay, let's make them a rock band, because I could not still come to this place where suddenly my actors start singing. So they had to be a singer. So which is why every time I've done a lip sync song, the actor is playing a singer or something. Otherwise, and that's why Nawazuddin does an emotional attachment. And I started using music as a part of a background narrative, because I could not bring myself to do that. Suddenly somebody starts singing and becomes a, and so everybody, because they had to be human beings with their flaws first. And which is why my heroes don't suddenly become machos and heroes and things like that. So it started with that. And my first film, literally, it was like, okay, fine, let's get done with your songs and then I'll start my story. So which is why you see 4 songs back to back and then the film begins. And then Black Friday, there was no such pressure, which was very good for me. And then I realized that I needed to use this in a way where my films can get made and I get to do what I wanted to do. So Piyush Mishra became my biggest weapon when I was doing Gulal. A lot of things I wanted to say, I used his songs and his poetry, because he's primarily a poet and then a singer and then a musician. So it became very political poetry, and I made him, and he doesn't want to be a poet or a singer and musician. At that time, he wanted to be an actor. So in exchange, I had to give him a role. His role was not part of the script. But he said, I will not give you my poetry and I will not compose songs for you if you don't make me act. So then I was like, how do I make him act? Then we had to devise a way to use him in a way where he becomes the poet in the film. And it's his voice. And so because he got a role to act in, he composed the music. And we made this film over a period of time. And in that process of Gulal, I figured my ways of doing things. And then when the films were banned, and I kind of went through a very bad divorce, and I did not have a home to stay. So that's when I went to USA, because I got a teaching job. And in the USA, I met a musician who took me to these underground music sessions where I discovered Brooklyn Qawwali Party. They're like a bunch of 17 Polish musicians singing Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. Then I met lots of these bands, and I saw a lot of underground music, and I was like, you know what, there's something happening there. And I met this musician called singer Shilpa Rao. And I told Shilpa, I've heard this eclectic music there. And most of them were people from India and Afghanistan and Pakistan. And she said, yeah, we also have a scene like that here. And that's where Amit Trivedi came in. And that's when I met Amit Trivedi. And he was also a Rahman fan who was playing the college circuit. And secretly, all these musicians would get together and jam. Yeah, all of them. Everybody who's a singer. And Amitabh Bhattacharya wanted to be a singer. He didn't want to be a songwriter. But they had no other songwriter. So he ended up being a songwriter. So I think that's how all of it came together. And we were all outcasts and outsiders. And so it was easier for us to get together at that time. And then, because I can't sing, and because I really did not care much about what mainstream music did for films, I was willing to experiment and listen to new things and listen to newer people. And all those new people also comes in because we didn't have budgets for established people. So also in the beginning, casting new actors, getting newer musicians and newer technicians was because established people cost us a lot of money and we did not have budgets. So over a period of time, it kind of created a system where a lot of people kind of started coming in together. Also, all of this happened at the same time alongside PFC. And PFC was the blog that kind of brought all filmmakers together. So all of these things happened between 2005 to 2010. And that's when I think somehow a lot of minds came together. That's where I found Vasan Bala, Ghewan, Anand Gandhi was writing, Chaitanya Tamane was there, everybody was there. And that kind of a blog post changed the scenario. Everybody was an individual voice. Nobody was like iconizing or idolizing anyone else. They all spoke their mind, and it became a platform where we met actors, musicians, everything. So that phase was very eclectic.
And then to ask you about Thelma. Suddenly you come to Bombay Velvet, which is of course a debatable film, let's say. But you worked with the greatest, one of the greatest editors.
No, that's
and this whole idea of, where you talk so much about it being organic and all of you just growing together, and then suddenly this kind of element, how you could...
For me, Bombay Velvet was one of my most passion projects. I really wanted to do it for the longest time. Started back in 2006. But what happened was, we wanted to do it a certain way, but after Vasipur, everything kind of became too massive. And because there's so many rejections, we started Phantom, the studio, and the investment suddenly was huge. Everybody wanted to do what we wanted to do. And a film that should not have cost that much money became an expensive film. I have done recce for it over 6 years. That I'll shoot parts of it in various countries, wherever. Bombay was built by Portuguese. So I went wherever the Portuguese went. We traced the entire route of the Portuguese during the colonization. And we found places across the world which looked like parts of which could be used to shoot like Bombay. Because we did not have, and that's how we planned to shoot it. The studio came in, so much money got invested in, the big stars came in, it kind of went out of hand. And because there's something, and before that what had happened was, a lot of things happened, because my films were banned, so Danny Boyle happened to see Black Friday around 2006 on a pirated DVD. And he borrowed a lot of crew from it. And when the film Slumdog Millionaire came out, he talked about my work a lot. So because of which, I think Marco Muller, when he came to India, he came to see my movies. And what he did was, in 2009, he picked up 2 of my released movies, Devdi and Gulal, and put them in Venice and put me on the jury. And slowly things started to happen. So I was in the jury of Venice, and suddenly everybody started watching my movies. And then somebody sent my films to Martin Scorsese. And then what happened was, he found time after 3 months to see the film. But he asked me to drop the film. Sorry, somebody spoke about my films and he asked me to drop the films, and I was not traveling. So I asked Gunit Monga to drop the films. The films were dropped at his house. And after 3 months, out of the blue, I get this letter from him. And he loved the films, and then I got invited to his jury. So I went there and spent time with him and realized he's collected a bunch of filmmakers he liked from across the world. That's where I met Sorrentino and Fatih Akin and everybody, and Park Chan-wook, and we all became a gang of friends. So he is such a generous man, and I realized the filmmaker of his, he's such a generous man, he watches everything in every film. So when we were making Bombay Velvet, and Fox Studios had started to produce it, suddenly going from making films with no budget to Fox wanting to produce my films, to being the biggest budget film of India. So suddenly everybody was on my head. My editing room used to be full of people. And one day they said that we need to get some Hollywood editor to edit the film. And I was very scared. And they were trying to get somebody who had done films like Dumb and Dumber and all that. So I went running to New York. Me and Vasan Bala, we ran to New York to meet Martin Scorsese. I said, help. So that's what happened. He said, help. And he asked Thelma and he sat on the edit. He would sit, and I left my editor there. I got out of the room because I was very attached to the film. It would have been hard, even though if anybody sat on it. So, and because it was a studio film, it wasn't my call anymore. And that's why I decided after that I've never made a studio film. That's one of the key reasons I've never made a studio film. And he told me one thing. He says, when the budgets are higher, the editing room becomes very democratic. And the one place that should not be democratic is the edit room. And he said, you need to either find a big star who's got your back. And he said, I had Bobby De Niro as who got my back, and today I have Leo who's got my back. Who has your back? And I was like, I have nobody. I have Nawaz. And then it was like, then you should not do big budget films. So, and then that's when after that I again stopped doing the studio films.
But what was that experience like? I'm curious because I'm an editor.
And that was a thing just to save an kind of a version of a film that we did not want to be out there. Still, like there's a different versions. My co-writer of Bombay Velvet, who I had not met since the film came out, because everybody went into depression. I met him at IFFK. I've been hanging out with him. He must be somewhere there, or not there. I don't know. Tanika, where is he? No, he's not there. So I met him. Suddenly, I was sitting on the stage on the first day, and I saw him sitting in the crowd. I said, "This is where he has disappeared to." That's what it does to you when something goes wrong.
Okay, last question, and then we'll open it out to the audience. Tell us about, actually there are two questions. One is this whole change now to Netflix and lust stories and ghost stories and so on. How has that changed you as a filmmaker? What does something like Netflix do?
See, because earlier, most of my films were seen by people after they downloaded it. So, because they did not have big stars. They went to the festivals. They did not last in cinemas. And students, especially students and working people, saw my films, and they would download the films because there was no other platform. So when Netflix came into being, it helped me the most. Because all the films that could not be monetized suddenly started getting monetized. And what had happened was, when Vasipur had come out, Netflix had just started. And Netflix people saw Vasipur and they serialized it. So in 2013 in the US, Vasipur was released as a 6-part mini-series on Netflix. And as a trial. So they used it as a first foreign language series. And we edited it and sent it to them, and for a very little amount of money. And within 20 days they got back and they said, like, we want to extend the contract. And on Facebook, I got a message from Eric Barmack in 2014, the head of Netflix. I want to work with you. So much before Netflix came out to India, they had been talking and they reached out to us. But finally when they came in and Sacred Games happened and everything, there's a lot of support. This is a lot of creative support till Tandav happened. So in the sense, everything that could not be seen suddenly now can be seen there. Because of Netflix, my film has kind of come back to life. Every film has found a life again.
But
and it's also getting monetized.
Is there a different grain in this work that you do?
No.
No? You don't think so?
No, not now. Because the thing is, like, we make it the same way, but now the problem is you can't do it. It's not different grain. You just cannot do. My one experience taught me that. My last film that came out, because of the political atmosphere in the country. So everybody's kind of scared. So there's a lot of fear. Because of that fear, and because they don't know that how do they tell us, so they just kind of avoid us. So it's difficult. It's difficult now in the sense that either you cater to a certain, pander to a certain kind of a mindset, or you just avoid and do something else. That's what it is.
Okay, last question. From all the films you've made, from everything you've done, tell me some moment, some shot, something from your own work that you treasure.
No, I don't know.
Something.
I don't know. I somehow
a master shot you love.
No, there's no. I think the best shot in every film is always sacrificed.
Yeah, that's what editors do.
That's what it is. I don't know. In the sense, sometimes I crave to go back in time. In the sense, I like the way everything happened in life. I today I look back and I'm like, I was lucky. I was banned for 7 years because it really taught me how to survive and do things and I found a perspective because it made me travel the world a lot. I did not have a passport before I made my first film. I made my passport and I traveled the world. I traveled and because I was often told, why are you making films like the way you make them? Nobody wants to watch it. And because Black Friday had premiered at Locarno and I had seen the reaction there and then it got banned here. So I was like, I remember people liking my film. It was also shown at Mami that year and people liked the film. I was like, why is everybody telling me not to make them? That curiosity made me travel. And I traveled across the world. I traveled with the pirated copies of my own film. And I would give it away to people. And that was a journey that has come in good stead for me. And I'm grateful for all that. But one thing that, because of all the problems that I faced, you also start to get to learn how to handle things. But that state of mind I made Black Friday in, I was just not aware. I read a book, I read a manuscript. I was like, what, this story has to be told because I had not heard that story before I read it. I did not see that perspective before I read it. So what impacted me, I just directly translated it on screen. There's nothing, no cleverness there. There's no filmmaker who came in and tried to do anything with the truth of it. Over a period of time, I've lost that. Over a period of time, you become smarter, cleverer. I know how to handle people. I know my way around the censor board. I know my way around the studios. I know my way around how to handle things. And somehow in that, the truth is not 100% truth. That I miss sometimes. When I lie down, I look at the roof and I was like, will I ever be able to do that again? And I know the answer is no.
No, of course you will. I mean, getting wiser is part of the human existence also. You can never be a child always. So.
But I like films made by children.
Okay,
I like first-time filmmakers because there's a kind of a question there, the questioning there. There's a kind of quest there. There's a kind of, you see their soul in it. They're very honest. There's some kind of an honesty there.
Okay, should we open it to questions? Are the mics ready? Who'll ask the first question? Yeah, okay. Where's the mic? Okay, ask. The mic will come. Ask. Come forward and ask. Where are the mics, yeah? We asked to keep the mic there, no? Yeah, we'll keep one mic. You keep the mic. Now I don't need the mic. Give the mic around, yeah?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. I think first my English fluent bad, but
Doesn't matter. Ask in Malayalam, I can't.
okay. അതായത് AK വേഴ്സസ് AK അതൊരു സംവിധായകനും ആക്ടറും തമ്മിലുള്ള ഈഗോ വാറാണ്. പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ ചോദിക്കുന്നത് അതിലെ ക്ലൈമാക്സിൽ പറയുന്നത് ഒരു ഹീറോ ഈസ് ദ സ്റ്റാർ ഈസ് ദ ഹീറോ, സിനിമയുടെ സ്റ്റാർ ഹീറോ ആണെന്നൊരു ഇതാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ ആക്ടർ എന്നല്ലാതെ ഒരു ഹാസ് എ ഡയറക്ടർ എന്താണ് ഡയറക്ടർ അല്ലേ ഹീറോ ഓഫ് ഫിലിം. AK വേഴ്സസ് AK.
He says that in AK versus AK, the star, he thinks that the star is the hero, but isn't actually the maker of the film, isn't the director the hero.
This is, I don't know in this.
With that, yeah.
I just acted in the movie. I'm not the director. I got an opportunity to troll myself to help other people. So I just wrote the dialogues and acted in the film.
Okay, there was a question there.
Hi, sir. Hello, ma'am. So I'm not going to ask you a specific question of your work, about your work, but yes, I mean, I just came across a fact. I'm not sure if it is true or not. You are going to tell us. I've heard that Anurag Kashyap never actually provides script to his cast and crew. He provides a CD in which he narrates. I mean, the recording of his narration is there. So is it true or
that's
not?
not true.
Yes. So I've actually came across.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
Narration is recorded and provided to his actors by Vishalji.
Okay.
Vishalji practiced that in Omkara. I don't know whether he does it in every film or not. But when he's working with mainstream actors, he kind of records a narration. I share my script with the crew, very rarely with cast.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Anurag, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So recently I was going through RGV sir's filmography and I was really surprised to see that you wrote Satya. And I just want to know your state of mind when you were doing Satya and what would be your routine and what is the part of your movie and like tell us about RGV sir also.
He's my film school. So I just went in there because I was tired of writing soap operas. And I've written, I've written more than 400, 500 episodes of various soap operas. I've written more than 50, 60, 70 films. At that time I was so tired of doing something I did not believe in, and I wanted to feel something more than what I was doing. And that's when I met RGV through Manoj Bajpayee. And RGV was doing a film with Manoj Bajpayee called Daud, where Manoj was playing a smaller role, and RGV asked him that I want to do a film with you, which obviously nobody will support. I also want to work with a new writer. At that time, I was interacting with Manoj on a smaller script that I was trying to do, which Kamal Sarup was supposed to direct. And that did not happen. So Manoj made me meet RGV, and I was so excited by what he wanted to do that I was just game. I said, I'll just do it. I just want to participate in what he was doing. So it was only me and him that started out. So I ended up being the casting director, assistant, everything on the film till post-production happened. So I spent 3 years on my life. I quit everything. 3 years of my life I spent on that movie. And that's where I learned everything. And luckily that was a film that nobody believed in and wanted to make. And RGV taught me how this industry is, and it's a good sign when nobody believes in you. and the way he handled everything is what taught me how to handle all the rejections and everything. So that's how it all started. So my writing process was nothing. The script that I sat down and wrote, RGV rejected it.
Oh.
So, and then what happened, it was a daily process. That was a time when people worked like, they made a 5-page scene order, and every day in the morning I was supposed to write scenes. We would write scenes every morning before the shoot, based on the location or actors we got. So that was the daily process, and then we would shoot and disappear.
Okay. Thank you. And tell us about your cool bag that you are carrying.
No, this is just my everything.
Okay.
This is my identity and all that, and if this bag is lost, I can't prove who I am.
Okay, hi sir. My name is Vishnu. Sir, I'm having a general question here. Most writers here are having facing the issue of writer's block. So, can you provide us some tips to overcome this writer's block? And what's the method of your script writing?
Writer's block. I also get writer's block. When I get writer's block, I just don't try and fight it. Just nothing. Distract yourself. I'll go and do something physical, like go swim. I would do something like that. I don't try and fight it. In the sense, if you fight it, then you will actually be making a monster out of it. I just write. I'm saying try this one day. Sit down and decide that I will not read anything and I will not get up till I've written 100 pages. Just try that and then you'll find something. That's how I write. I just write non-stop. I don't know because you guys type. I'm not used to the computer. I write with my hand till date. Superb. Then just keep writing till you fill 100 pages. Don't look at it.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Sir, I wanted to ask you, how do you describe the relationship between an actor and a director while they are working together?
Why do you want to describe anything?
How do you see that relation?
That's a very, in the sense, see, it's a relationship. If you want your actor to trust you, if you want something more from an actor, he has to trust you and you have to become that person that he can trust. Like I ask my actors to do anything and over a period of time they will do that because you have to answer every question they have. You have to understand when an actor is there, the actor is very vulnerable. And because they also come from a place they want to do their best and it doesn't matter how good they are, they feel lost. So you have to keep holding their hand and you have to not let them fall. Even if they're falling in the scene, you have to protect them. It's a very tender relationship where you have to do the protection and you have to also lead them on. You have to guide them and you have to be the safe place for them. If you're not, then you won't get the best out of them.
So what should I do being an actor?
Being an actor?
Yeah.
Be vulnerable.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir. Right at the back. 2 questions right at the back.
Hello, sir.
Spread it around the mic, huh?
First of all, glad to meet you. I would like to ask you, how you look at the Malayalam film industry today. Malayalam
I've already said this. Every film I'm seeing coming out every day is such a good film.
Is it really up to that level? Like, is it more comparing to other regional?
See, I don't treat anything. It's not an Olympics. It's like for me, I don't answer questions like what is your favorite movie, what's your best movie. It's a very kind of a pointless thing. As long as I see somebody putting in everything, I love it.
Good evening, sir. Sir. Good evening, sir. So my name is Mukundan Tiwari. I'm from a small city called Thrissur. It's a great honor meeting you, sir. So my question is, could you, I wouldn't say advice, but could you just give us a tips on how to make violence, or say the element of violence in the most beautiful manner? Because
that's such a contradictory question.
No, I just finished my first short film. I released it on 14th February, Valentine's Day. So I just want to shift the genre. I'm writing on something that's very dark. So
it's not like that. See, so I'll tell you something. Most of my earlier films, if you see, I try to keep violence off screen. It's intended.
Okay.
Earlier films, till I came to Vasipur. In Vasipur, I decided I want to make it visceral and not take my eyes away from it. So I took single shots. There were long takes and single shots, and we wanted to see everything there. But generally, violence bothers. It depends on what is your relationship with violence. Violence bothers me. Like in real life, if I see blood, I'll faint.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So because it bothers me, my relationship with violence is like that.
So it's more of like a external factor that you keep in mind.
No, it doesn't, because my films and me are not the same people.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
My films and me are not the same people.
Okay.
What bothers me, I put it on screen. What I go through, I put it on screen. I exorcise myself from the screen.
Okay.
So I put everything that I'm going through in the movies, and my interpretation of any story is through my own personal experience.
Okay.
So when the film ends and it comes out, every time a film comes out, I'm a little better person.
Hi, sir. Gangs of Wasseypur became a massive, like a cult following, like T-shirts, everything. This, and also it's become a hit among memers. So there's a particular scene, that chapel scene, like it's been a huge following on memers. So what do you think about like becoming a very big hit among memers and memes all over
See,
India?
if I knew that Wasseypur will become like that, I would be much more richer. I would have asked for bigger budget. I would have had all actors would have been paid better. You know, when we made the film, nobody believed in us. So it's become what it has become over a period of time. So you can't. I just look at it and I wish I have that kind of a sight, or like that I know what this is going to do. So I can demand money.
Hi, sir.
No,
Sir.
Hi. 1 minute here, this side. We're doing one mic this side, one mic this side.
Hi.
Hi.
So, any tip on how to decide the pace of the film? Like, if it's very slow, at times it becomes very boring, but realistic.
Go with your instinct. Yeah. Just go with your instinct. Do your film. See, I'll tell you, as a producer, I've produced all kinds of film. Very fast-paced film, very slow-paced film. If you see Udaan, Vikram wanted a certain way. I had a studio who said, this can be fast. I said, it can be, but the filmmaker doesn't want it to be. So, you have to deal with me in between. So, it depends. In the sense, it has to come from you. What is your pace in life? What feels correct to you? Or sometimes you just leave it to the editor when you don't know. So, find that equation with some editor who you trust. When you're confused, you go to them. You have to find your own way, because there's no. If you start looking for formulas, it's like a 3-act structure. If you start looking for formulas, your films will start being yours. You have to go on your journey and find your way.
Hello, sir. The other day you were speaking about Malayalam cinema and you told how Malayalam cinema was able to chronicle the contemporary times. The same thing is happening in many of your movies, especially.
Used to happen.
Yeah, especially in Gangs of Wasseypur, it is associated with the Mafia Raj in.
See, all this used to happen. Wasseypur was 2012. We are in 2022.
Yeah,
I'm not able to do that anymore. See, which I'm saying, it's like I envy. I saw Pada yesterday. I just envied Kamal. I was like, you can go out and make this film. I can't do this. I won't be allowed to do it. I'll have to deal with a lot if I make a film about anything that's remotely political and close to truth like that.
Yeah, there is always this fascination towards reality and real incidents, as evident in movies like Wasseypur and Black Friday. Can you tell me about it?
Oh, Black Friday is much more real than Wasseypur. Wasseypur is slightly exaggerated. It's more fun. It's approach fun. If you want the honest, it's there in Ugly. It's there in Black Friday.
There's somebody right at the back there. Can you talk? One of you stand up and ask a question. Loudly ask.
No, I don't think you need that. You really don't need that. I'll quote some other filmmaker there. I've shared it on Instagram as well. Like, you know, I'm more interested in the story you want to tell and how you tell it. I'm more interested in where you're coming from and what you're trying to say. The camera and lens will come in from the people you collaborate with, from your cinematographer, in the sense, if you ask me, I don't understand much. I talk to my cameraman, I'm like, I want to go a little closer. I want a little distance. And he understands what I'm trying to say. And I don't need to say more than that. I don't need to show up, because when you get lost in technicalities, then it also kills the soul. Trust somebody. I trust my people I work with. And I will not go. I will talk. When I feel absolutely something instinctively wrong about it, I'll communicate. I'll tell them that, listen, I don't think this is right. And that's the same relationship I will have with my cameraman, my sound person, my editor, and I'll give them the space, because I know that deep down, Every single person wants to do their best. And a lot of people ask me, how your actors are so good, how your sound is so good, how your camera work is so, what do you do? I say, I do nothing, I trust them. And that's a fact. Because when you trust them and empower them now, they will do their best. Because nobody wants to come and be mediocre. Not a single sound person I know, not a single cameraman who wants to be mediocre, nobody. And they really give it their all. So you have to really empower them. When you come in, now you actually will limit them with your understanding of how much you know. And I promise you will know lesser than your cameraman about camera.
There's a question here.
Roshan, I saw while I was working with Geetu closely on Muthwan, on the edit table. And I said, who's this actor? And I was looking for an actor and I said, let's get him. It was as simple as that because it's the impact he had while watching the rushes of Muthwan. And Pankaj Tripathi in Sacred Games I was a director who was doing my part of the story, but most of the choices were made by Vikram Motwani, who was the showrunner. So he picked him up.
There's a question here. Wait, front. Now we've gone to the back, now let's come to the front. Yes.
Yeah. In Hindi, yeah. Yeah, in Hindi.
How does that sit with the story?
It's difficult, it's a struggle because every day I have written some 8 scripts in last 2 years. And I have seen one by one everything falling apart. I finished one more today. I just don't give up. So that's the thing is, you have to be relentless. So if I can't make a political film, I'll make an extremely personal film. So I will do something or the other. I think personal is always political. And what I was doing earlier was more based on a lot of other material, outside material, and it was extremely political. Now I'm trying to do something much more personal, which is also political, but the politics is now it's not the politics that bothers me from outside, it's the interpersonal politics that bothers me from inside. That affects me from inside. So now I'm doing something much more personal.
So, excuse me, sir. 2 questions. So,
One question.
this is. Okay, first question is that normally when I write, I keep going to the first piece that I've written. Okay, I keep going there. I read it again. I correct it. Then I read it again.
Don't stop doing that.
Because that's become more of an addiction to me, actually.
Yeah, actually, it is not just addiction. It's like just to stop doing that.
Okay.
I'm saying you do one thing. What I have always told people, write 100, 120 page, whatever you think is an idea of a script is. Even though it's the worst script you've ever written. Write 120 very bad pages and very bad script. But get to the end of it. Once you get to the end of it, there's something that you'll feel inside. It's almost like releasing some kind of a hormones release inside you. Then it's easier to go back and correct it.
Okay.
But get to the end first.
Okay.
Get to the end first.
And one more question, sir. If we want to pitch you a...
Yes.
Sir.
Over there, that lady.
Yeah, wait.
It took time because me and Amit started working on the music in 2009 after Devdi released. So it took a long time. And a lot of live recording was done in Prague. And then it took a long time to find voices and to get even the studio around to say that, okay, this music is good. We still cut out 1 or 2 songs. But that's Bombay Bullet has been a very heartbreaking experience in life. But anyway, it's like, it was a beautiful experience creating the music, but it was very long. You know, other people don't understand, so.
So I'm saying jazz is not very prominent in Hindi cinema. Like, if I talk about Bollywood, but the way you have presented it, I love the way.
There's a lot of jazz that you will see in the films from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, at that time
Yeah.
was very
Yeah, but it's like I love jazz, so.
I also love jazz.
Yeah, it's been co-opted by the right wing. Yeah. Yes, of course. I'll tell you something in the sense, we are inherently a nepotistic country. So I'm saying, let's forget Bollywood. You know, you can't run away from it. In election, we are nepotistic. We vote for familiar people. In interpersonal marriages, we are like that. Like, our parents will be like, married to that family because I know that family. So you're not marrying a family, you're marrying a person, right? But the person doesn't matter, it's a family. So inherently, we are a nepotistic country. We, in order to feel safe, we believe in it, even though we deny it. And we'll always be nepotistic. We are not going away from it. So I'm saying just come to terms with it. It's just that people think nepotism gets talked about a lot in the film industry or field of sports, but it also has its own consequences. So at the end of the day, it's about you. So nepotism तो मतलब हमारे यहाँ हर जगह है. डॉक्टर का बेटा डॉक्टर बनता है, बिजनेसमैन का बेटा अपने फादर का बिजनेस संभालता है.
सर गुड इवनिंग सर. सर मेरा क्वेश्चन फिल्म से रिलेटेड नहीं है. क्वेश्चन ये है कि हाउ टू फाइंड यू आफ्टर दिस सेशन, बिकॉज एज एन एस्पायरिंग फिल्म मेकर एंड एन एक्टर आई वांट टू फाइंड यू आफ्टर दिस सेशन so that I can be a good actor. And
See, I'll tell you, I have met 90% of the filmmakers I admire in my life. It's taken me 30 years. It's taken me 30 years. And I only met them through my work. So if you want to meet someone, you make a short film. I'm saying do something that I would want to see you and make time for you. I've met a lot of first-time filmmakers, and it's only because of their work. A lot of filmmakers, and every filmmaker who's here with a film, I'm going to watch their film. And anyone I like, I will make time for them. So it's always to use your work to meet someone.
Good evening, sir. How much do you think bilingual film will work in India today? Like, as you worked in
If I want to make a bilingual film, I'll make it. I don't want to think how much will it work.
So how's the scene of a bilingual?
Huh?
Like how's the bilingual scene in India?
So we are a multilingual country. I think it's high time people start making those films.
Okay,
I'm saying don't think about things like that. You have to, and today with OTT platforms, with subtitles, everybody's getting used to subtitles.
Okay.
So I think one has to take that chance. If nobody takes that chance, how will we know?
Okay, thank you.
And really doesn't, don't ask those questions. How much will it work? Just do it.
Good evening, Anurag sir. Sir, here. Sir, we all know that you have a habit of collecting film series and you have a library in your home. So after the boom of OTT platforms, most of the majority of the people are watching films in the OTT platforms. So, sir, do you still prefer to watch movies more with DVDs, or have you changed to the OTT platforms?
No, I like to watch a film in the best possible way I can. So nothing better than Blu-rays or things. So my reason to also buy movies is not just that. It's like sometimes I see films for free in a festival. I've been a victim of my films not returning any money on the box office. So when I see films for free on a festival or anything like that, and if I like it, I definitely make an effort to buy a Blu-ray and keep it, because some of the money goes back to the filmmaker. So that's how over a period of time I have collected movies.
Okay, sorry to say three more questions. Okay, you. Yeah. Come ask, we can hear you.
Just one minute, what are the question?
but I think in your life you also experience lows of a kind which you mentioned last.
Yeah.
And if you could reflect upon, like, how do you pass that kind of a period, and what is your outlook? Like, how do you pick yourself up again when so many times
It is, I don't know, it's a very difficult question, a very difficult time. I'm in the process of picking myself up.
Sir,
I went through a severe depression last year and a half. And I had a heart attack. I was on a wheelchair for 4 months. I just got out of, I just kind of became active in last 1 month. And I have finished the script this morning, which I've been attempting to write for last 3 years. I wrote all the other scripts that I wrote did not take off in last 2 years. And dealing with all kinds of problems. I have 2-3 finished films which won't come out. So you have to deal with it. I've gone through a phase of 7 years of ban. I have gone through all those things. So in the sense, you have to just not give up. And that sometimes you don't have that energy. It's okay. I didn't have the energy to get out of bed for the longest time. I did not have the energy to get out of bed for the longest time. And I was like, what is the point of making an effort when it's not going to get made? When they're not going to let me make what I want to make. So you go through all those things, but at the end of the day, the things that motivate me is personal stories. I'm like, I still live in India. We're still a film-loving nation. I still have more opportunities than filmmakers out there in Russia and Iran and so many places. They still found a way to make amazing movies. And what am I complaining about? And this is why I talk to myself like this. And then I get up. Because, we are somehow the third or the fourth largest film industry in the world. And you walk on the street and you tell someone, I want to make a film, and they'll give you the money for it. Or they'll offer their help for it. You go to European countries, they can't make a film without a cultural fund. They struggle 5 years to make a cultural fund. I have such incredible filmmaker friends who have won Academy Awards, who have been celebrated across the world. They don't have money to make the film. That filmmakers like Fatih Akin struggled so much to make a film. He would, when the year he came to IFFI, he called me, he says, can you help me get some commercials to make? I've been to houses of these filmmakers. They have much lesser opportunities than what we have. I think being an Indian, in a way, I feel I'm very blessed as a filmmaker. I have so many opportunities. Yes, there are other external factors and fights that I have to fight. And I have to fight them. Yeah, sometimes I don't have the energy, but the next day I'll again try and get up and fight. And for me, swimming helps a lot.
Sir, I do have a question. I heard that before that you go on a set and shoot, then coming back you write. How could you be in 2 zones at one time? Like, it's totally 2 different zones, right? And how could, focusing on one thing or focusing 2 things at a time?
I can switch on, switch off.
Okay, it's like getting into the character.
No, it's not like that. In the sense, it is also conditioning. It's conditioning because sometimes you see people do these superhuman things that you're like, how do they do it? It's always the conditioning. It's always the conditioning. I'm like amazed at a rickshaw puller when you see, like how much weight they carry and then they go back and eat this much. And like, how does this man find the strength to go on? It is the conditioning from wherever it comes from. And I'm like, I'm very privileged compared to that. I have a lot of, I get to have my whiskey to switch on, switch off.
Sir.
See, I'll tell you, in the sense, so many things come to me, not just to me, I'll speak on behalf of every filmmaker. And this is something that often people ask, and I will give you this, anybody who aspires to get into the industry. If you want to assist someone, never reach out to the filmmaker, find out the team. It's always the first AD and the assistants who make way for newer assistants. Every filmmaker has a trusted team, people he trusts, who know his style of functioning. It's not because he depends on them, it's because it's convenient that they understand each other. So if you like a filmmaker and you want to get into his team, get to know the assistants. If you want to be an actor, you have to find out the process of casting that they do, where they go to, or whatever it is. If you want to pitch an idea, you have to remember, see, if every idea pitched to me, I won't read. I will have a team that will read. And if you want to be a filmmaker or anything, the best way is short films. A good short film always travels. Always travels.
Sir? One. Oh.
No, we are a film-loving nation. We'll stay on. And the propaganda films are made because films have that impact on us. And there's nothing, no take on it, because you can't stop a filmmaker from. I don't agree with his politics. I know the intention, but I can't stop him from making what he wants to make. At the same time, I can see the lies and the exaggerated things in it. But this is what a lot of other films do, which are, we take an element of truth and we pile on imaginary things on it, or fiction on it. Which is what I did in Wasipur. Based on a fact. But I exaggerated it and did a lot of things. Somebody does their own thing. It is to his convenience. And the thing is, to fight that, make a counter film. To fight that, create a debate. Write about it. You can't block him, because when we fight for freedom of wanting to say something, then freedom is everybody's. Freedom, and the most inconvenient truth is this. The freedom will be exploited the most by people who will use it to falsify everything.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, my name is Harold, and I'm a student from K.R. Narayana National Institute. So, a student of your student Kamal KM. So, the thing is that in 2009, I went to it was my first time I am going to a film festival, and a film that have hit on me was Udan, when the moment where the son goes beating his father. It was not acceptable for me at that time. And then the next year or I don't know, the year I saw Devdi. So Devdi was a film
Devdi was before Udan.
Okay, and then I saw it in, I think the same festival, I don't remember. So it was the first time when I was seeing a webcam girl in Indian film, or seeing a proper sex in Indian film. And then the character also. So then that was also not acceptable for me, even though I had watching porn before that. But for this moral thing, it was not acceptable for me. Then
I'll tell you, that's why the problem is. There's no sex scene in Devdi. There's no sex scene in Devdi.
No, not sex. That's
why I'm saying it's in your head.
No, yeah, maybe.
It was in your head.
Maybe. So, yes. No, not that. But the thing is that I'm coming to the point. You have used the element of erotic content in films. It's after that only recent times that a kissing scene have happened in Malayalam. It's going in there. So the censor was there. You can't show this thing. So you were the pioneers who have portrayed the erotic elements and lovemaking in Indian cinema. So I would like to know your views on that.
I think I have always been. I feel very offended because I have always wanted to address sexuality in the film, and I hate showing sex on screen. And the reason I wanted to address sexuality is because we are a very repressed country. We get very uncomfortable when it comes to sex, and it clearly shows when you're asking a question. So, because we don't accept, and I wanted to address that, and I wanted to also put out there that the women who do own their sexuality, and we can do it without showing anything on screen, and we did it without showing anything on screen. But the fact that you saw it is because you were repressed by it. and the thing is it's important to address it, and I feel I've always wanted to do it because growing up I had questions and there were no answers. And you go through so much, the kind of sexual abuse and everything that people go through growing up is because there's nobody to talk about it, and we are still such a country, you know, and we need to stop being that. And being a father of a girl, I literally sit down from a very young age. I've sat down, and she can talk to me about anything. It is because I could not talk about anything to my parents when I was going through a lot of unmentionable abuse. And there's nobody to guide me. There's nobody to hold my hand. Nobody wanting to tell me the difference between right and wrong. Somehow it has shaped me. I was lucky that I got so much education that it shaped my opinions in life, and it gave me some kind of a direction, and I used it to be who I am. But I also know 90% of people who completely got consumed by it, who found no other way out. So it is very important that we address those things. And I always say that whatever makes us uncomfortable is not bad. It must be addressed. It should be put on screen. Because discomfort is very important for us to grow.
Okay. We have to stop. We have to.
Namaskar sir, namaskar ma'am. I'm Harshita from Haryana, and I am an acting student. And my important question is, in today's world and these days, actors are really very struggling. And would you like to speak something, some inspirable words for the actors? How can they approach to cinema? And how can
I think today there's so much work. It's the best time to be an actor. Just go to whichever language you want to work in. There is so much happening. There's so much. Everything. Today even short films pay money.
But sir, I would like to ask that these days many students and many actors who have been struggling with their parents, with their body shaming and many things like rejection. So how would you like to inspire them?
I just say one thing. Since it's not like that I was away from it. I grew up in Banaras. And my parents are also extremely conservative and everything else. Somehow, what happens in life is you get so consumed by your passion that nothing seems like a problem. That will drive you. You are never satisfied with anything you do. I don't know. I don't think like that. In the sense, I can tell you, after every movie, I just feel like I could have done a little better. No, I don't read it while writing. Of course, I read it after writing it.
Okay.
See, the thing is like I have figured out a way, in the sense I like how to deal with criticism. What happens is like anybody who creates, if I write and if you'll criticize me or my writing, my natural instinct will be to defend myself. If you criticize my film, my natural instinct will be to defend myself, which I used to do earlier. And I figured out a way of it is like I show my work to people and I say, write down everything that you feel. Write down your criticism and write down whether it's about my writing or my film and send it to me. Then it becomes a one-way conversation. Then I have no other option but to read it. Then I have no choice. I can't defend myself. So then what happens is it really works for me. So I always take it in writing.
Sir, if you hear a good opinion from other, will you take it in your script or will you apply it?
No, when people give me reactions, everything applies.
Okay. Sorry.
Huh? I'll tell you, you don't owe anything to anyone. You want to just be creative, be creative. You want to give out a message, do that. I'm saying a lot of people use cinema as a medium to tell them about how they are and what they're going through. There's nothing that is a gospel truth. You should do what you want to do.
I think this is a really good note to end on. Oh, so many questions. Okay, what's your question?
That's not your job. I'm saying you write what you want to write and what you feel honestly. You can't just sit down and just balance it. That's not expected from, at least from the first time writer. You know, we are a country that gets hurt either which ways. We are easily offended.
Okay.
You will never end up finishing a script if you don't want to offend anyone.
I'd like to thank you all. It's been a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chalachitra Academy is very happy to give a small gift to Anurag.
Who?
The Academy.
Oh.
We have with us Shivakami, daughter of Anu Ramakrishnan, who passed away recently. He was an artist, a graphic artist.
You know, I was eyeing this book for so long while it was traveling in front of my eyes. I was wondering what it is, and it's mine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this is Shivakami, who's
Thank you,
Anup's daughter, who passed away. He used to be our designer, and she's shy. Thank you all so much, and thank you,
Thank you so much.
Anurag. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun coming here. Thank you.
Okay. They want us to face that side. They can take it. Okay. Okay. चलो